Malin. May I please request all of you to rise to welcome the Honorable Prime Minister. Please. Thank you. The Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnnath, Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, Minister of Defense, Home Affairs and External Communication, Minister for Rodrigues, Outer Island and Territorial Integrity, Dr. the Honorable Ranganathan Padayachhi, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Her Excellency, Srimati Nandini Singla, High Commissioner of India to Mauritius, His Excellency Ambassador Amandoya Dilem, Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Emraj Ramyal, Chairman of the Economic Development Board, Mr. Orvesh Sigulam, Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, Vice Chairman of the Economic Development Board, Mr. Issa Soumali, Board Directors of the EDB, Mr. Vishal Jadhav, Chairman and Managing Director of Crescendo Worldwide, our consultant on the CECPA agreement, distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, a very good morning to all of you, and thank you for your presence for the launch of the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement Forum, organized in the context of the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Mauritius and India. Market access has been and remains a core feature of our socio-economic development in Mauritius. And the Comprehensive Economic Partnership and Cooperation Agreement that Mauritius has signed represents today a powerful lever to strengthen, to reinforce, and cement further the super special relations that exist between our two nations. And I must say also that the strong political endorsement of this forum today, with the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister in our midst, signifies the importance that both India and Mauritius pay to the successful implementation of the CECPA. You will note from the program that we have a very intensive day ahead of us, but I promise you it will be insightful, and we are going to share a lot of knowledge about what CECPA really represents to us, what exchanges we can have, business ventures, partnership, collaboration, and greater capital flows between our two nations. I therefore humbly request, and gently, that we respect the timeline that we have given in the program. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. the Honorable Ranganathan Padayakche, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, on stage for his welcome address. Please join me in welcoming him.
Merci, Ken. Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnat, Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, Honorable Alan Ganu, Minister of Land Transport and Light Rail, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, Her Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla, High Commissioner of the Republic of India to Mauritius, His Excellency Mr. Dillam, Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Mr. 𝐻𝑜𝑘𝐻𝑒, Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, Mrs. Sadhna Gopal, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, Mr. Emraj Ramnyal, Chairman of the Economic Development Board, Mr. Issa Somali, Vice Chairman of the Economic Development Board, Mr. Ken Punusamy, CEO of the Economic Development Board, Mr. Vikash Thakur, Chief Executive of the Financial Services Commission, Captain of Industries, members of the press, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, namaste, and a very good morning to you all. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this event organized in the context of the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Mauritius and India. Your very presence here bears testimony to the importance of the occasion and the relevance of the long-standing ties that bind Mauritius and India. Our established cultural, political, and economic relationship has been steadfast throughout the years. Today, ladies and gentlemen, this relationship between our countries has transcended into one of fraternity. The comprehensive economic cooperation and partnership agreement between Mauritius and India is proof to this special bond. The government of Mauritius and India have worked together to come up with a historic agreement that is mutually beneficial to both our nations. The results are already visible. With the CECPA, our economic operators are able to tap into new opportunities in a market of nearly 1.4 billion people. Before the pandemic and the entry into force of the CECPA, exports towards India stood at 848 million rupees for 2019. In the first semester of this year itself, exports to India have already exceeded 1.3 billion rupees. This performance reinforces government's vision to diversify towards new markets. Ladies and gentlemen, the global economy is in a state of unstable equilibrium. Successive crises have put enormous pressure on financial markets and commodity prices, which is affecting the livelihoods of millions around the world. As a result, governments have come up with response packages and recovery plans. Our government, under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, deployed a historic support plan to support businesses, protect lives, and sustain livelihoods of Mauritians. According to the World Bank, the government of Mauritius' response to COVID-19 is considered the fourth largest in the world, representing 32% of our GDP. Without our timely and effective response, our conventional and non-conventional measures, our quoi qu'il en coûte strategy, I believe that we would today still be talking about recession and survival instead of opportunities and recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, Mauritius is well on track to exceed its pre-pandemic macroeconomic performance in real terms. According to latest figures from Statistics Mauritius, GDP will be of more than 544 billion rupees, with a growth rate of 7.9%. To recall, in 2019, the country's GDP was at 512 billion rupees. Investment will for the first time reach 102 billion rupees, with positive growth in both public and private investment. Before the pandemic, in 2019, investment figures had reached 97 billion rupees. Equally, for the very first time in our history, exports of goods will exceed 100 billion rupees, a growth rate of 10.9%. In 2019, export of goods accounted for 78 billion rupees. Export of services will equally register a record growth of 35.3% to reach 180 billion rupees from 146 billion rupees in 2019. We are seeing more and more major players using Mauritius as a regional trading platform for their operations. As I mentioned earlier, the CECPA is instrumental in opening new opportunities for our businesses. The CECPA form parts of government strategy to strengthen the resilience of our economy through the diversification of our markets. Our trade agreement opened preferential access to a market of more than 5 billion individuals worldwide. Ladies and gentlemen, as demonstrated during the pandemic, the government, under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister, will continue to ensure that no one is left behind as Mauritius engages on its recovery path. During the last budget, we announced a series of measures to support the purchasing power of Mauritians in the face of rising global prices, amongst others, the introduction of a monthly CSG income allowance of 1,000 rupees to all employees and self-employed earning less than 50,000 rupees, an increase of 1,000 rupees in the monthly basic retirement pension at 60 years old, the introduction of a monthly CSG retirement benefit of 1,000 rupees, bringing total retirement benefits to 11,000 rupees, an increase of more than 20% in social aid, a prime à l'emploi of up to 15,000 rupees monthly to incentivize youth and women employment, and the establishment of a CECPA disability allowance for those with a disability of between 40 and 59%. These policies reflect our DNA as a government for the people, with the people. We are setting the stage for a resilient and sustainable Mauritius. We have implemented policies to further improve food security and increase the share of renewable energy in our energy mix. This will have long-term benefits on the economy, on society, and on the environment. Before I conclude, I wish to reflect on the words of Nobel Prize Joseph Stiglitz, who once said, "Development is about transforming lives of people, not just transforming economies." This is what we should all aim at, using assets such as the CECPA. Ladies and gentlemen, this will open the doors to greater collaboration between institutions and businesses of both countries. It will further ensure the spirit of brotherhood that connects Mauritius and India. I'm sure that this forum will further strengthen the economic ties between our two countries, and I wish you all fruitful discussions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, the Indian High Commission has played a formidable role as a key facilitator in ensuring that the exchanges at the diplomatic, economic, and cultural levels remain high on the agenda of both countries. We would like to thank the High Commission of India, and in particular, Her Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla, and the Deputy High Commissioner, Mr. Vimarsh Aryan, and the team for the excellent collaboration in organizing today's event. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to invite Her Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla to come on stage for her address, please. Thank you.
Honorable 𝑃𝑟𝑎𝑣𝑖𝑛𝑑 𝐁𝐿, Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, Honorable Alain Ganou, Minister of Land Transport and Light Rail, and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, Honorable Ranganathan Padyachi, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, His Excellency Mr. Dhillon, Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Mr. 𝐻𝑜𝑟𝑎𝑏𝑐 𝐻𝑜𝑟𝑎𝑏𝑐, Governor, Bank of Mauritius, Mr. 𝐻EMRAJ Ramnyal, Chairman of EDB, friends from the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, a very good morning to you all. Namaskar. Every day is a special day on this paradise island for me, but today is extra special. I feel especially privileged to be the Indian High Commissioner here when India and Mauritius celebrate the 75th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. And I think it's doubly befitting that we are launching these celebrations today with an event that seeks to leverage our free trade agreement called CECPA to enhance the prosperity and well-being of the people of our two countries. An objective that has always been at the very heart of the uniquely close ties that our two brotherly countries share. Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, India and Mauritius have walked hand in hand right from the beginning even before our countries became independent and even before our formal diplomatic relations began. Our shared journey started when the first Indian indentured laborers set foot on Mauritius soil in 1834. The journey continued when, for more than 50 years, between 1878 and 1934, we shared a common currency, the Indian rupee. It is no surprise, therefore, that even after independence, India has always been one of the top 3 trading partners of Mauritius. And Mauritius has always been one of the top 3 sources of foreign direct investment into India. The future of our relationship looks equally promising. Mauritius is at the intersection of 3 priority areas for my country: our neighborhood first policy, our focus on the Indian Ocean region, and our focus on Africa. As India celebrates its 75th anniversary of independence as the world's 5th largest economy, we look forward to Mauritius continuing as a cherished partner in our growth story. It is, again, no surprise, therefore, that the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement, CECPA, which we signed last year with Mauritius, is India's first free trade agreement with any African country, and India's first trade agreement with any country in a decade, since 2011, to be precise. I believe that CECPA holds tremendous potential to boost our bilateral trade, as outlined by the Honorable Minister of Finance a few minutes ago. Why do I say this? India currently exports only about 3.5% of the total Mauritian imports on the 310 product lines offered by Mauritius to India under CECPA. Only 3.5%. Similarly, Mauritius exports only 0.06% of India's total imports on the 615 tariff lines offered by India under CECPA. Just look at the tremendous potential that we have right there. What is interesting for Mauritian exporters is that the top 5 Mauritian products, which form 57% of Mauritius's total exports to India, that is, more than half of current Mauritian exports to India, are also included in CECPA. How can we boost these Mauritian exports to India further? So while I invite our businesses to explore these opportunities, I'm happy to report that we are already on the right track. In fact, in just 1 year since CECPA entered into force, both Indian exports to Mauritius and Mauritian exports to India grew at an impressive 69%. To be precise, Indian exports to Mauritius grew by 69%, and Mauritian exports to India grew by 68.6%. I think that's amazing. And interestingly, in the same period, foreign direct investment from Mauritius into India also grew by 66.7%, from $5.6 billion to $9.3 billion, making Mauritius the 3rd largest source of FDI to India. Ladies and gentlemen, going beyond the present, the statistics that I just quoted, just a few weeks ago, both our countries agreed to add a general economic cooperation chapter and an automatic trigger safeguard mechanism in CECPA, with an eye to opening up opportunities for business in futuristic sectors like healthcare, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, renewable energy, blue economy, port infrastructure, even space technology, investments, financial services, and so on. Many exciting new areas. And to me, CECPA can also position Mauritius as the springboard to Africa for Indian businesses, both for trade and investments. And it may surprise some of you to know that with regard to investments, Mauritius is already a hub to Africa for India, with over 90% of the $70 billion Indian investment into Africa going either directly to Mauritius or going through Mauritius into Africa. I think that's an impressive figure that very few people know. 90% of India's $70 billion investment into Africa being routed already through Mauritius. And as the Honorable Finance Minister said, as the world focuses on resilient recovery and supply chain strategies in a post-COVID economy buffeted by the ongoing war in Ukraine, CECPA can be an ideal platform to explore new opportunities, particularly in Africa. I believe that there are tremendous synergies between India and Mauritius, with the Honorable Prime Minister's dynamic vision of making Mauritius a hub to Africa by becoming a biotechnology hub, a data technology hub, an education hub, also a silver economy, that is a destination for retirees, and a green economy. And on the other hand, India growing by a record 13.5% in the last quarter, in the last few months from April to June, and becoming the fastest growing major economy in the world. Can we explore these synergies? I hope that today's discussions also focus on these exciting new frontiers. Personally, I think to tap into these opportunities, it is time for us to think of out-of-the-box ideas. For instance, can we have warehousing facilities for Indian goods in Mauritius for export to Africa? Can we set up Indian special economic zones to benefit from Mauritius's membership of SADC, COMESA, AFCFTA, and other trade agreements? Can we look at easing the movement of business persons between India, Mauritius, and Africa? I hope our discussions today will also look at these new initiatives that we can embark on. Ladies and gentlemen, the coming year is special for our two countries, not only because we will celebrate our close traditional ties, but also because we will chart a path for expanding our partnership into new exciting areas like the ones I mentioned. Before I close, I take the opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Your Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister, for your personal leadership and steadfast support in advancing India-Mauritius ties. I'm also thankful for the gracious presence of the two Honorable Ministers and for their ready assistance at all times. I think your presence here today testifies to the commitment of the Government of Mauritius to further deepen our special relationship. I'm grateful to the Economic Development Board for taking the initiative to anchor this event, and a big thank you to all of you for joining us in this emblematic celebration of our special friendship. Thank you, and namaste.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your very kind words. The negotiations for the CECPA agreement have been led by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and international trade. I now have the pleasure to call upon the Honorable Alain Ganou, Minister of Land Transport, Light Rail, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade for his address. Thank you.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, our good friend, the Chief Executive of the EDB, Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagannath, Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, my good friend, the Honorable Ranganaden Padayachi, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Your Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla, the High Commissioner of the Republic of India to Mauritius, Mr. Sigulam, Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, distinguished participants and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and namaste to all of you. It gives me great pleasure to be in your midst today for the official launching of the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Partnership Agreement Forum. Today's large attendance, comprising the major stakeholders of our economy, illustrates the importance of this event and the interest it elicits from the business community, both in Mauritius and in India. This forum is the flagship event in the two-year program that we are organizing with the collaboration of the High Commission of India for the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries. The commemoration highlights the long-standing and cherished relations between Mauritius and India. This commemoration invites us to stroll down memory lane and reminds us of the long road traveled. We recall that only a few months after its independence on the 15th of August 1947, India appointed His Excellency Mr. Dharam Yash Dev as the first commissioner to Mauritius in September 1948. Since then, the brotherly relationship between our two countries have grown by leaps and bounds. Today, the CECPA landmark agreement, which was signed in February last year and which came into force on the 1st of April last year, showcases our shared intent to enhance our relations for years to come. Indeed, the CECPA is a pivotal milestone in the relationship between Mauritius and India, and one that has the potential to transform our country and lead us to a more dynamic, competitive, and attractive destination to do business and invest in. Excellencies, Honorable Prime Minister, beyond the timeline I just mentioned, allow me to emphasize that the ties that bind our two countries cannot be merely restricted to formal and diplomatic areas. Our relations go far beyond any formal nature and arrangements. Today's commemoration fits in perfectly in the course charted. Since independence, India has proved itself to be a staunch supporter of Mauritius, as we all know. India, like our other privileged partners, has accompanied us in our endeavors to emerge as a small island state and become a committed partner in our socio-economic development. With India's help, we have carried out numerous developmental activities and other projects that range from the social to the cultural, encompassing educational, capacity building, trade, and industry. More recently, India has been instrumental in developing our infrastructure, with notably the construction of the Metro Express and its expansion to the major urban poles of the country, the construction of a new ENT hospital in Bakwa, the renal transplant unit at Jawaharlal Nehru Hospital, as well as mediclinics, area health centers, and other social housing units in many parts of the island. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with the celebrations, it is fitting that this landmark anniversary is being commemorated with this forum on the CECPA, a first agreement, as we just heard, of its kind between an African country and India. As I said earlier, with the signature of that agreement, a pivotal milestone was reached, one that will pave the way for even greater economic cooperation between our two countries. We firmly believe that the CECPA will enhance our economic ties and develop a unique strategic partnership. It will help focus Mauritius' economic recovery, increase business expansion, and facilitate greater investments in our country. The world, including Mauritius, is going through difficult and challenging times. Not only has the COVID-19 pandemic turned our lives and economic upside down, the geopolitical war in Europe has compounded matters and sent shockwaves all around the world. Excellencies, since the coming into force of the CECPA, trade and investment relations between Mauritius and India have undoubtedly intensified. Domestic exports from Mauritius to India have increased from 1 billion rupees in 2020 to 1.6 billion in 2021. Domestic exports in the first semester of this year amounted to 1.1 billion rupees compared to 729 million rupees in the first semester of 2021, which is equivalent to an increase of 60%. Imports from India have also witnessed an increase from 15.8 billion rupees in 2020 to 33.5 billion rupees in 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, recently, reports have appeared in one paper with regard to their export figures to India and China, which reports are in fact of a misleading nature and intend to create doubt in the minds of the population. I wish to point out that these trade figures, which we are quoting, have been obtained from official sources, namely Statistics Mauritius for India and Customs Department for China. Exports for China, in fact, grew by 73.2% in 2021 compared to 2020. There was some discrepancy in the figures on China compiled by Customs due to some technical mix-up. However, what is clear, crystal clear, and undeniable is that there has been a substantial increase in exports on both the Chinese and the Indian markets since in 2021. Furthermore, there has been a growing interest among Indian investors to access opportunities on the African continent, as Her Excellency, the High Commissioner, just commented upon a few minutes ago. Yes, as the first trade agreement signed by India with an African country, it creates the possibility for Mauritian and Indian businesses to team up to access the African continent. Excellencies, the CECPA allows market access at concessional customs duties for exports and imports to and from Mauritius. Mauritius exporters, as we know, benefit from preferential market access on a list of 615 products, including special sugar, beer, rum, fruit wine, garments, and canned tuna. It provides opportunities of trade and investment in some 100 service subsectors, including financial services, ICT, professional services, and distribution service. The recently concluded economic cooperation chapter, to which I think Her Excellency just referred, of the CECPA, also consolidates cooperation in key sectors, such as the ocean economy, ICT, SME development, and robotics. It also provides a framework for the development of the India-Mauritius-Africa trilateral cooperation. Thus, Indian investors can use Mauritius as a gateway for production and subsequent exports to the African market. Mauritius has duty-free access on a market of 650 million consumers by virtue of its membership in COMESA and SADC. With the entry into force of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Mauritius has now preferential access on a market of approximately 1.3 billion people across 55 countries in Africa, with a combined GDP value around 3.5 trillion USD. Ladies and gentlemen, with regard to the AFCFTA, I attended the last Council of Ministers recently in Accra. The meeting took note of the progress achieved in the negotiations, and member states are now ready to trade under this agreement. I am glad and pleased to inform you that Mauritius has been one of the first countries to have submitted its schedule of concession in the goods sector, as well as its schedule of commitments in services. In addition, Mauritius has been selected to be part of the new guided trade initiative, the objective of which is to bring together operators to strike trade deals and to start trading. Undoubtedly, this potential of the AFCFTA is huge, with its market, as I just reminded you, of 55 countries and 1.3 billion people. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to end up, let me say that today's forum will provide an opportunity for all stakeholders to learn about the provisions of the CECPA and ask questions and clarification from the competent authorities. Therefore, I will not expand further on this topic. I will rather conclude and take this opportunity to invite all of you to discover the CECPA network and wish you fruitful interactions during the course of the day. Long live the brotherly relationship between our countries. I have done. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, over the years, the relationship between Mauritius and India has been marked by several visits and participation of dignitaries at the highest level from both countries. It is in the same spirit that Honorable Mrs. Anupriya Patel, Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, the Republic of India, has made it a point to participate in this forum through a recorded message showing consideration of the highest importance that India plays for this forum. So may I request that we project the recorded message, please.
Honorable Mr. Pravin Kumar Jagnauth, Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, Minister of Defence, Home Affairs and External Communications, Minister for Roaderies, Outer Islands and Territorial Integrity. Honorable Mr. Ellen Ganu, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Regional Integration and International Trade, Government of Mauritius. Dr. Honorable Renganadhan Pediachi, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, Government of Mauritius. Distinguished delegates, officials of the Government of Mauritius, colleagues from India, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to begin by thanking and congratulating the Government of Mauritius under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Mr. Pravin Jagnauth, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Mauritius, for convening this timely CECPA Forum 2022. The fact that this forum is also one of the first in a series of events commemorating the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Mauritius over the next 1 year testifies the deep and long-standing relationship between India and Mauritius, built on the solid foundation of our shared history, ancestry, culture, and close people-to-people ties. Forums like this and your esteemed presence here today, Honorable Prime Minister, underscore the importance both our countries attach to our unique relationship and to forging closer economic ties to further deepen this special partnership over the next 25 years when we will celebrate 100 years of our partnership. Today's event takes place as our two countries and the world are recovering from the devastating impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and is both timely and opportune. It will give much needed hope and positivity to our two peoples by showcasing how this first of its kind free trade agreement between India and Mauritius can boost bilateral trade and investments and help expedite the economic recovery of both our countries. Apart from cementing the age-old ties between two trusted friends, today's deliberations will also show how CECPA can help our economic engagement reach new heights and achieve its full potential. As the first such trade agreement between India and any African country, the CECPA is also a testament to India's recognition of the importance of Mauritius as a trusted partner and facilitator in enhancing Indian trade and investment into Africa and vice versa. As a member of the major African regional organizations such as the African Union, Southern African Development Community, and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, Mauritius can serve as a vital gateway to Africa. With COVID-19 restrictions now easing out, CECPA can pave the way for enhancing bilateral trade and economic engagement of India, not only with Mauritius but also with the other African countries of these organizations through Mauritius. In these challenging times, when the world economy has been buffeted by rising protectionism, unilateralism, unforeseen black swan events, and the COVID-19 pandemic, I believe that CCPA can be a good example for the world on the way forward for global trade based on cooperation and mutual understanding. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since the establishment of the diplomatic relations between India and Mauritius in 1948, our bilateral trade and investments have grown steadily. The bilateral trade between India and Mauritius registered a growth of 233% from 206.76 million USD in 2005-6 to 690.02 million USD in 2019-20, with a diverse commodity basket ranging from traditional products to technology-intensive products. It is particularly heartening to see that soon after the CCPA came into force on 1st of April last year, our bilateral trade has grown by 69% from 465.5 million USD in 2020-21 to 786.7 million USD in 2021-22. What is even more encouraging is that exports from both countries have grown in tandem, showing that both countries are reaping the benefits of CECPA. It might interest the members of the business community here to know that CECPA is a forward-looking agreement which promotes a high level of liberalization while also encouraging new potential areas for trade in goods and services. Mauritius is bound to benefit from market access in India for a large number of products, such as frozen fish, specialty sugar, biscuits, fresh fruit juices, beer, alcoholic drinks, soaps, bags, medical and surgical equipments, and garments. The agreement provides for tariff rate quota quantity for specialty sugar ranging from 15,000 to 40,000 tons per annum. Apart from the 1.5 million liters of rum, 2 million liters of beer, 7.5 million pieces of apparel per annum, etc., for which Mauritius enjoys a reputation for global excellence. India, with a huge population of 1.4 billion, offers a huge market for these products, given that India's current global imports of these products stands at $15 billion per annum. Indian consumers, in turn, will benefit from the very high-quality Mauritian products. I am happy to know that a few weeks ago, the Mauritian Sugar Syndicate shipped the very first consignment of 16 tons of special sugar to India under CECPA on 24 July. I am informed by our High Commission about the prompt and proactive assistance of the Mauritian Foreign Ministry in facilitating this. I thank the government of Mauritius for this and hope that such synergistic efforts of the governments and businesses, which are the essence of CECPA, will continue in the same spirit on both sides. In the services sector too, there is a big forward movement through the CECPA. Both countries have committed to liberalize the movement of our people to work in each other's countries, covering around 100 subsectors from 11 broad service sectors identified on each side. These include business services, communication services, construction-related engineering services, distribution services, education services, environmental services, financial services, health-related and social services, tourism and travel-related services, recreational services, and transport services. I'm equally happy that we have recently finalized the text and agreed to include the General Economic Cooperation Chapter and the Automatic Trigger Safeguard Mechanism in the CECPA. The inclusion of the General Economic Cooperation Chapter will promote all forms of economic cooperation beneficial to the citizens of India and Mauritius in diverse areas like investments, financial services, textiles, small and medium enterprises, handicraft, gems and jewelry, information and communication technology, film production, space technology, biotechnology, blue economy, port infrastructure, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, competition policy, renewable energy, etc. The Auto Trigger Safeguard Mechanism will allow India and Mauritius to protect their domestic industries against the sudden surges in the import of products on which preferential access has been provided for under the CECPA. To further enhance the bilateral trade and expand the CECPA, we are currently discussing the inclusion of additional product lines of both countries for the provision of market access. The negotiations are likely to conclude by the end of this year. We have also agreed to initiate discussions on a customs mutual administrative assistance agreement and bilateral recognition of equivalence on the sanitary and phytosanitary measures and technical barriers to trade. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, India and Mauritius have been long-standing partners in the area of foreign investment, a major determinant of trade and a key element of an economic relationship. In fact, Mauritius accounted for more than 1/4 of the total FDI equity inflows into India during the period from April 2000 to June 2022, with an FDI inflow of $160.11 billion. During 2021-22, Mauritius was the third largest source of FDI with equity flows of $9.39 billion. The Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which is the apex business organization in India, has also planned a session today to deliberate upon the bilateral business opportunities opened up by the CECPA. We look forward to fruitful interactions that lead to partnerships that contribute to the economic development of both our countries. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I'm also happy to share that given the increasing interest of the global trading community in Indian rupee transactions, the Reserve Bank of India has decided to set up a mechanism to allow invoicing and payments for international trade in the Indian rupee. Under the new regulation, foreign banks will be allowed to open rupee vostro accounts in the Indian banks, and Indian importers undertaking imports under this mechanism can make payments directly in the Indian rupee to the rupee vostro account of the corresponding bank of the partner country against the invoices in INR for the supply of goods or services by the overseas supplier. We hope that the government of Mauritius will explore this new mechanism that intends to further ease bilateral trade transactions with India. To conclude, I wish the CECPA Forum 2022 every success and hope that the discussions, the inputs, and feedback from our business communities help boost business ties and lead to an ever increasing economic engagement between our two brotherly countries. Here, I would like to emphasize that governments can only create the facilitating framework. Ultimately, it is the businesses that must act to take advantage of the commercial opportunities. We therefore look forward to the proactive participation of our business communities in making CECPA a success and contributing to strengthening the 75-years-old partnership even further as our two countries embark on this wonderful journey together. It is truly a privilege to be associated with this important event, and I take this opportunity to thank the Government of Mauritius and the High Commission of India in Mauritius for this initiative. I hope that the deliberations during various sessions of this well-planned event covering various aspects of our bilateral economic partnership will further deepen the already strong relationships between India and Mauritius. Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Before we invite the Honorable Prime Minister to deliver his keynote address, the EDB would like to project a short video to showcase the various benefits that the CECPA offer to Mauritian businesses. We invite you to explore these opportunities through this very short video. Thank you. So it now gives me immense pleasure to invite our chief guest to this forum, the Honorable Pravin Kumar Jagnnath, Prime Minister of Mauritius, under whose leadership the CECPA has been able to materialize to give his keynote address. Honorable Prime Minister.
My colleague ministers, Her Excellency the High Commissioner of India, the Governor of the Bank of Mauritius, the Chairperson and members of the Economic Development Board, leaders of the business community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to be amongst you today for this workshop which aims at elevating economic and cultural ties between Mauritius and India, and also to join in for the celebration of the 75th anniversary of our diplomatic relations between both countries. This event will further highlight the long-lasting friendship that our two countries enjoy and the deep-rooted ties between our two peoples. The Mauritius-India Comprehensive Economic Cooperation and Partnership Agreement, the CECPA, which will be discussed during this workshop, comes at a timely moment in our history. In an increasingly multipolar world, ushered in by the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent geopolitical tensions, we can only rely on the support of our partners to move on. And India has been throughout a partner, a friend like no other to Mauritius. The signing of a trade agreement between Mauritius and India was the culmination of years of intense negotiations. I am thankful to the government of India, and especially to Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji for their unwavering commitment in making this agreement a reality. This agreement, I would like to emphasize, is the first one that India has signed with an African country. This kind of consideration comes from centuries of economic, social, and cultural history that our two countries share. It started from the time, as rightly has been pointed out by Her Excellency, from the time that 𝑃𝑟𝑎𝑣𝑖s from diverse parts of India set foot in Mauritius. It comes also from the generous technical, financial, and diplomatic support that India has provided to Mauritius in many fields. Recent examples of successful completion of projects undertaken with Indian assistance include the Metro Express, the ENT Hospital, and the new Supreme Court building. Even in the very middle of this pandemic, where nations have been on a race against each other to obtain treatment and to acquire vaccines, we have benefited from the generosity of India with the supply of hydroxychloroquine tablets and the COVID-19 vaccines. But our partnership goes beyond the realm of assistance. Economic ties are as important, if not more, and they are indeed strong and growing. Indian companies have invested significantly in Mauritius. Companies such as the State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Infosys Technologies, Indian Oil, and the LIC, to name but a few, are today major players in our economy. On the trade front, India is our second largest partner, accounting for 11% of our total trade. And as we have just heard from previous speakers, the exchanges between Mauritius and India has witnessed major increase, and this, of course, augurs well for the future. The CECPA offers a great opportunity to improve on this performance. I am pleased to note that Mauritius exporters are already availing themselves of the preferential market access to export to India. And following the recent meeting of the high-powered Joint Trade Committee held in New Delhi in August, several outstanding issues have been resolved and the doors for additional opportunities are open. The CECPA between Mauritius and India forms part of a broader strategy of government to broaden our economic horizons and plays an integral part in facilitating cross-border trade and investments. In 2021, 4 new trade agreements came into effect, namely the Eastern and Southern Africa-UK Economic Partnership Agreement, the Mauritius-China Free Trade Agreement, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, and, of course, the Mauritius-India Comprehensive Economic and Cooperation and Partnership Agreement. These new trade agreements, combined with the existing ones we have, such as AGOA, SADC, COMESA, the Interim Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union, a Free Trade Agreement with Turkey, and the Preferential Trade Agreement with Pakistan, provide Mauritian exporters with preferential market access to more than 75% of the world population. We have left no stone unturned to make Mauritius a competitive platform for exports with unparalleled incentives to manufacturers to produce and export. In this year's budget, we announced new measures to address issues which have been preventing local businesses from making the most of the agreements and facilities that we have put in place. The government is working on chartering 2 regional feeder vessels, one which will service the South Asian route, including India, Sri Lanka, and Seychelles, and a second one, which will service the Eastern African countries, namely Madagascar, Tanzania, and Kenya. They will provide more visibility to exporters and improve the competitiveness of our exports. We are also investing massively in the upgrading of our infrastructure around the island to make sure that our businesses operate in the best environment possible. We have allocated more than 72 billion rupees for infrastructural projects over the next 3 financial years in areas such as the road network, energy self-sufficiency, ports development, and utilities. The work we have done so far is already driving recovery and paving the way towards a sustainable, intensive, and modern economy. Mauritius is aiming for an accelerated GDP growth rate of 7.9% in 2022 and 8.5% in financial year 2022-2023. Exports of goods and services should exceed 280 billion rupees in 2022, higher than the pre-COVID levels. This is mainly due to the exceptional performance in exports of goods and the renewed dynamism in the tourism sector. We are quite confident that tourist arrivals will reach 1 million in 2022. And of course, we are doing our best to be able to reach a target of 1.4 million in fiscal year 22-23. FDI flows into Mauritius is expected to exceed 20 billion rupees, as several major projects in the real estate, manufacturing, hospitality, financial services, renewable energy, and ICT sectors, amongst others, materialize. Ladies and gentlemen, our economic progress has allowed us to engage in a resolute fight against poverty and inequality. We are reaping the benefits of what we have sown, and we are now able to invest in what matters most to us, social welfare. This government introduced the minimum wage and the negative income tax to pull people out of poverty and reduce rising inequalities. We also increased the basic retirement pension to 10,000 rupees already, an amount which will continue to rise in the next few years. On top of that, we are paying an additional CSG allowance to ease the burden of several categories of citizens who do not need our support in normal times. We are also engaged in a national project to build 12,000 houses to ensure that each and every citizen of Mauritius has a decent access to shelter. We have also made tertiary education free for all our students. Our work will not stop here. We are constantly adapting our nation to the exigencies of ever-changing global strictures, and we will always strive to ensure that it is our citizens who will emerge as winners from this growth. Our institutions have played an important role in the achievement of the economic miracle. As the Mauritius Exports Development and Investment Authority has done in the past, the Economic Development Board will be playing an important role in charting the future that we want. I would urge all businesses to fully avail of the expertise that this institution offers. Before I conclude, I would like to once again express my appreciation for the friendship and the mutual respect that Mauritius and India share. This is indeed a special relationship that we will continue to nurture, and I'm sure that together we can build towards a prosperous future. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. May I request Her Excellency Srimati Nandini Singla to please join the Prime Minister on stage to mark the 75th anniversary celebration of diplomatic relation between India and Mauritius. I invite the Prime Minister and Mrs. Singla to proceed with the launch of the logo to commemorate this landmark event. Thank you. May I request the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, and the Chairman of EDB to please join on stage to launch the booklet on Mauritius India CECPA, a guide to business development. Please. Thank you very much. This concludes the official ceremony for the forum. We would invite all our guests to please come back to the forum for the serious business of ensuring that the CECPA is successful for both countries in about 30 minutes. So thank you very much.